For more on the economic backlash to the U.S. state's new religious laws, I'm joined by Melissa Morris. She's the president of the Charlotte LGBT Chamber of Commerce. Melissa, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michelle.
Melissa, with regards to North Carolina, what triggered this was the HB2 law, which requires transgender people, basically everyone else, to use public restrooms according to the biological sex on their birth certificate. Now, Melissa, many say that they do not want to allow men to be legally allowed to walk into a woman's bathroom or locker room, and that this could endanger women and children. What is your response to that?
Well, the reality is that there is no basis for this fear. There's no history of any men coming in pretending to be women to attack children. That's just not the case. As far as discrimination goes here, the opposite happens with transgender people. There are attacks when transgender people are forced to use bathrooms of their birth sex.
Well, I guess the bigger issue is that this has been extended. It's been stretched to exclude lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people from anti-discrimination protections in general, and it blocks municipalities from adopting their own rules. Is there some kind of middle ground here?
Well, I think the middle ground is that we have to stop discriminating against people. There was no reason for the General Assembly to create this kind of legislation. There are laws in place where if you go into a bathroom and you attack someone, you violate someone, then you go to jail, you're punished. There was no reason to specifically create laws that only harm certain groups of people, including the LGBT community. So, it would be difficult to find a middle ground, I think, at this point.
Well, certainly been a lot of backlash from businesses that are opposed to the law. Executives from more than 100 companies signing an open letter calling on state legislators to repeal the law, from Bank of America, Starbucks, Facebook, PayPal, Apple, American Airlines, just to name a few. But beyond issuing statements, which companies have actually taken action so far?
Well, so far the largest one, as we know, is PayPal. So they have already decided they were going to pull 400 jobs that were coming in to the Charlotte area. Unfortunately, this translates into an additional almost 1,000 jobs that would have been created statewide. And this is going to be a huge economic backlash, not just directly from those who would have worked for PayPal, but for our community in general.
So if, in the interest of changing the law, the business do pull out, what impact does that have on the state and also on the LGBT community?
Well, certainly we've already seen a huge economic impact, and it can only get larger. As businesses decide that they want to boycott, states decide that they don't want to let their employees come in and hold conferences here. We've already seen dozens of conventions that were scheduled to be here pull out, which affects our hotel industry, our travel industry. We've already looking at losing out on tens of millions of dollars just as of today in our economy across North Carolina.
So do you think that the loss of revenue coming from these businesses will pressure the legislature into overturning this law?
Well, I think that was the hope. Unfortunately, those of us that live here are the ones who end up being the ones who are hurt in all of this. We're losing economic opportunities, employment opportunities as folks are boycotting. So, hopefully the folks who decide they don't want to come here actually decide to come here, to be very vocal, to show that they don't support HB2, and more importantly, use their resources to make sure that we elect more progressive candidates come November, so that things like this don't happen in the future.
So Melissa, as a member of the LGBT community, you're of course opposed to this law, but from the business aspect, you're also opposed to the boycott, saying it's hurting the state, it's hurting businesses. Clearly, corporate America has tremendous power. How would you think that businesses should be using that power to influence and affect change, if not by threatening to remove their businesses?
Well, as I said, right now we have to go through the state legislature in the immediate to try and see some results. If the state legislators are understanding that they may not have a position in November because corporate America has banded together to, again, unseat them and help to put new progressive candidates in their place, I think they may think twice about moving forward and doing nothing about HB2.
Well, it has been effective in certain places. For example, in Indiana, what is the most effective way that the business community can act in order to have acts that they rebuke be overturned?
Well, right now, again, we have over 130 organizations, as you mentioned, that have signed on to a statement that goes directly to the governor. Certainly, again, showing support, being very vocal, but again, using their power and influence to make sure that it's not just, a threat, that things are actually going to take place, that, we're going to push forward and make sure that the governor knows that we're serious about changing our tactics here and not supporting HB2.
Okay, thank you much. The Charlotte LGBT Chamber of Commerce.